trained pianist, trained classical pianist, and because of my profession, I have spent quite a bit of time thinking about what is actually the training that a classical musician receives. Part of it is obviously being very proficient and efficient at your instrument, but a big part of it is also the shaping of taste. So when you think about a classical pianist would play music, let's say by Bach, Mozart, Beethoven, composers who lived about 200, 250 years ago. And so we have with us a very long tradition, a tradition of performance practice, endless recordings by the greatest pianists saying, this is how you shape a phrase by Mozart, this is how you shape a phrase by Beethoven. You have very important people, musicologists, telling you, you have to trill like this, you have to do it in specific ways. And although I learned all of this and I was able to do it, I always felt that there was a lot of beauty that was not included in this, what I would call accepted taste. I always felt that there were sounds, that there was a whole world, let's say, auditory world outside of this accepted good taste that was just left outside. And a number of years ago, I went to South Africa to study wildlife and to study nature. And when I went hiking with two friends to a very isolated canyon in the province of Limpopo, and there we had a very close encounter with a group of baboons. And the baboons reacted the way they normally do when they encounter something unique or something different, which is they started emitting all kinds of different sounds. And some of the sounds that they started emitting were obviously their alarm sounds, letting us know that they were there and that this was their territory. We weren't intruders, and that they were willing to defend their territory if necessary. And when I heard the alarm sounds of the baboons, something really interesting or special happened in me. On the one hand, my body registered this sound in a way that my body has not or had not registered a sound before. It's almost impossible to really describe it in words, except that I have not forgotten this experience, although it happened about 5 years ago. And I think what happens is that the baboons are obviously primates, so genetically speaking, they're very close to us. And their alarm sound has, therefore, a quality that we recognize it as being almost human. But the almost here plays a very important role because it's not human, it's something different. And I think that the almost connects to our history as primates as well. In other words, it brings us to our forgotten or unconscious memory of the times when we were perhaps not the way we are anymore, and therefore we can connect to the sound made by the baboons. Somehow it's in our unconscious memory, it's in our DNA, it's part of our heritage. I don't react the same way, let's say, to other sounds. When I hear birds chirping, I would say, wow, that's really beautiful. I might get really moved by it, but it's not the same kind of a sound as the sounds that I heard made by the baboons. Now, years after my experience in South Africa with the baboons, I discovered almost by accident the didgeridoo. I walked into a shop in Amsterdam that sells them, that carries them, and I heard this amazing sound. And in the sound of the didgeridoo, especially when it's combined with the human voice, I heard a world of friction, a world of tension, and this world that is presented by the didgeridoo gets very close to the sounds that I heard made by the baboons. In a way, when I use the didgeridoo with my voice, you will hear obviously the drone of the didgeridoo, but there's something imposed in it that gets very close to this alarm sound that I heard from the baboons. So something that I'm going to show you right now with the didgeridoo, I will just start with a basic drone, and after a while I will add my voice so that you get an idea of what I'm talking about. are sounds that are very close to nature. The didgeridoo as an instrument itself is also a product of nature. It's made of eucalyptus branch. As you can see, it doesn't have any holes or anything really that you could indicate, well, this is a musical instrument. It's hollow from the inside, and it's just a long branch. And what is very interesting about the instrument is that traditional didgeridoos were actually the branches of the trees that were carved out by termites in Australia. So the termites, whole colonies of termites live in the branches. This is where they live, this is where they reproduce, and eventually where they die. This is where they have their colonies. So you have thousands of insects living inside, carving out these branches, creating grooves inside the branches of the didgeridoo. So at one point, when you get people who want to make didgeridoos out of these instruments, what they do is they knock like this, and when they realize that it's hollow, then they say, okay, this branch is ready to be turned into a didgeridoo, and then of course a different process starts. But the initial process was actually made by termites. And for this reason, you don't really have, let's say, a factory of didgeridoos, which is something that really makes this instrument a little bit different from most other instruments where you really have a production going and a factory going. In here, nature really started, and what the termites did with this instrument, the grooves that they left behind of the whole colony are unique and particular of this instrument only. And when I play the instrument, I'm very much aware of its history. I'm very much aware of the connection with the Aboriginals in Australia, who regarded this instrument as a gift from higher beings, from spirits. And with this gift, by playing this instrument, they would be able to connect with their spiritual life. So in this sense, if you go really back to the origin of this instrument, it's an almost shamanistic instrument. It's not a musical instrument. It's an instrument that helps people to connect with their spiritual life. Something that has happened a number of times after we've given a concert is that people approach me and they tell me that without them really understanding why, they feel really moved by the sound of the instrument. Some people have told me I've been close to tears just by listening to the sound. And they obviously don't know why. They say, you know, I've listened to all kinds of instruments, gone to orchestras, singers, you name it. But there's something very unique about the sound of the instrument. And I think going back to my idea of our unconscious memories, about our DNA that has collected, you know, these centuries, if not thousands of years of information of sound. I think really that's what they're talking about. But of course, it's not something that has been researched. It's not something that you can really prove and say, well, it's because of this. Yet, I do know that we have a memory regarding sound that goes for, you know, centuries of years. It's not only the sounds that you have experienced in your life, but it's in your heritage as a person.